everyone, happy Monday and welcome to this LinkedIn Live with myself, Jen Corcoran. I'm super excited to be here. I haven't done one of these in a while and I'm going to be speaking to an amazing lady today called Barbara Meehan, another Irish lady. So you're going to have a lady from the East Coast and the West Coast chatting, and I'm going to be chatting with Barbara about focusing orientated coaching. It's something that I'm completely new to, so I'm really interested to learn more. And for the last 8 years in business, I've worked with a lot of coaches, lifestyle, business, wellness, spiritual, but I've never come across this term. And Barbara is the pioneer of focusing orientated training. So without further ado, I'm going to get her up. And if you are listening, if you are live, do let us know. I'm going to just quickly stick up this banner first, because it's always nice that we're not speaking just to ourselves. So if you are on and you are listening to us live, or even if you're watching the replay, do put some comments in and we'd love to connect with you, engage with you. And as I'm going along chatting to Barbara, if there are any questions or any feedback that you want to make, don't be shy. This is a safe space. Just go along, stick it in the comments and we can come back to you later. So I'm going to bring up the lovely Barbara now. Hi, Barbara. Welcome.
Hi, Jen.
Thank you so much for being with me today. And I'm really excited to get into this topic with you because I know you're an expert and I know a lot of us are new to focusing orientated coaching, and I'm excited to learn more. So do you want to tell me a bit about yourself and your coaching journey before you got into the focusing?
Absolutely, Jen. Thanks. And it's lovely to be here. I just love focusing and focusing oriented coaching. So I feel like I could speak about it all day. So a little bit about me then. So I'm a coach supervisor, and a coach trainer. And my background is corporate. So I was 25 years in the whole corporate scene. I suppose the longest role I had was as an MD of a medical device company. I also worked in organization leadership development. And I guess once I discovered coaching, all of that took me in a certain direction. And Jen, I often say to people that really my journey to focusing was as natural as focusing itself. So in focusing, we talk about one step leading to another,
Yeah.
and that's how it was. So well, let me think, where do I begin? Well, I guess I started as an executive coach probably about 15 years ago. And I had a really interesting experience early on. Somebody looked for a volunteer to do a demo, and I raised my hand, and something really powerful happened. And it was life-changing in terms of I can feel it inside now. It was so instrumental for me. And at the end of that session, the coach turned to me and he said to me, "You were focusing." And I said, "What's that?" So we'll talk in a minute about Jen Lynn's 1978 focusing book. He directed me to that. I read it. I couldn't get enough of it. I went on workshops. And so really early on in my coaching journey, in parallel, I went on a personal development journey where I learned how to focus. And I became qualified as focusing coordinator, focusing trainer, and the two paths really happened in parallel. So it was pretty sure bet that focusing would find its way into my coaching. And I began to experiment with it, Jen. In the past, I worked with senior leaders, CEOs, founders of organizations, entrepreneurs, and I just began to experiment, which is what I'd encourage people that are interested in on this call to do. So just trying it out. And that really helped me see both its power and the challenges with it. So I became so taken by it, having introduced it into the corporate world, that I took a bit of time out. I didn't mention, but I'm an accountant originally, way back when. And it was really, so the results were really powerful. But this is brand new. Nobody before has crossed focusing and coaching into a defined process. So I really wanted to measure it. So I set up a study, and my measurement was mental well-being. It's really impactful for people that are struggling with their physical or mental well-being, or maybe not struggling, but maybe just want to learn more about all of that side of life. So I worked with GPs and psychotherapists, and they referred, and I guess this is probably what qualifies me to talk about it, this 5-year research project that I undertook. So I worked with, it took 2 years. I worked with over 100 people, well over 1,000 one-on-one coaching hours. And the results were just amazing. I mean, you can see them on my website under research, pause.ie. But really, it was the experience of that time, the experience that I had working with people. And I really understood that what this is all about is listening deeply, and being in human presence with somebody else. So I guess that was pivotal. And I went to a conference, spoke about it, and several other coaches said to me, I'd love to learn to be able to do that. So that's kind of how I got to where I am, Jen.
I'm curious listening to you. Does anybody else on the call? I'm just going to say a quick hi to Katrina. We've got Katrina Kilmartin over in London, and we've got lovely Nicoline over in Holland listening and commenting. Does anybody, have you heard of focusing when it comes to coaching? Because I haven't, and I just think that you're actually just focusing on something, you know, with your attention, but obviously there's a lot more to it. So I'd love to know, if people haven't heard of focusing, like, where did it come from?
Yeah. So actually, the origins of it, the story are really interesting. So Eugene Gendlin was the founder of focusing in the 1960s. He wrote that book, that seminal book, just called Focusing, in 1978. But when he was a philosophy student, he came in touch with Carl Rogers. And Carl Rogers, of course, in the 1950s and 60s, was revolutionizing psychotherapy with his person-centered approach. And he was doing this mammoth study. I mean, thousands of people were in this study to prove the correlation between the core competencies of empathy, congruence, and unconditional positive regard. So the correlation between that and successful therapeutic outcomes. So it came originally in the therapy world. And Gendlin was a novice, and he was a philosophy student, but he got trained under Carl Rogers and ended up really, actually in time, taking running some of Rogers' studies. But this particular study was probably, they say, the biggest disappointment of Carl Rogers' career, because it didn't prove that the therapist's core conditions led to higher capacity in the client, which led to successful therapeutic outcomes. What actually happened was that they discovered there was something innate in a proportion of the people in the study. So there was like this pre-existing capacity for them to go inside and access something. And Gendlin was just so excited by that because that's what he was studying. He was studying phenomenology and how we symbolize our experience. So while Rogers was disappointed, Gendlin was, I suppose that was the springboard for what became the rest of his working life. So basically at that stage, so Gendlin didn't discover it, he observed it taking place naturally. And then he thought, well, if it comes natural, there's about a third of us actually that do it naturally. Fortunately, I'm one of those. But it's natural to some, but teachable to everyone. So that book that I mentioned was where he outlined the process so that people could learn to do it for themselves. And the story continues. So even though it's been around in therapy, the therapy world for so long, it hasn't really in any significant way crossed into coaching. And of course, that's what we know with all the psychological disciplines, that they make their way into focusing or into coaching. So here we are.
It's a lovely blend. And I'm not a coach myself, I'm a consultant, but sometimes I feel like I am a mini therapist, so I can see how the two come in, and I think I can see the benefit of the two together to help you get kind of maximum results. So I'd love to know a bit more about how you've integrated it into your coaching, and what's the difference from, say, you that's using the focusing aspect and another coach that's not using it.
Yeah. So maybe would it be okay if I just talk about what focusing is first?
Yeah,
I think that's a super question.
Yeah,
but I think when people
don't know what it is, I'm just going to show. Nicoline doesn't know. Katrina doesn't know. Our lovely Dervla's on. She said she knows. She was in your program.
Yeah. So Focusing is a different way of being with ourselves. And it's a way of being with ourselves that allows us to access two very different parts of ourselves. And the first part really is all our experiences, all our life experiences. And there's a treasure trove of them in there that we don't even know about. And focusing allows us to access those. So some of our experiences we know, they're the memories that we know. When I was 3, I remember, maybe 3 is a little young, but when I was whatever age, I remember that, or I know that about my pattern of behavior. So we can access that. Then there's the experiences we've had that we've never actually conceptualized into words. And in coaching, when people hear somebody say, oh, when I hear myself say that, actually. So we've processed the experience, but we haven't actually conceptualized it. We haven't concretized it. That makes sense. Yeah. And then the third type of experience is the ones we haven't processed. So the ones we might have suppressed or not felt, the ones that were maybe interrupted by others. So whatever, and we don't categorize them, but they're all there. They're all there inside of us, and focusing allows us to access that. The second thing that focusing allows us to do is to connect with our sense of rightness. So rather than listen to what other people have told us or listen to our heads, we have this internal sense of rightness. And this is what a lot of people say is so wonderful about focusing, that they reconnect with that part of themselves that knows what they want, that knows how things are for them. So focusing allows us to access both those things. So Jen, you asked me what's focusing. So focusing is a series of steps, a process of awareness that allows us access all of that in relation to any situation in our lives. So for coaches, in relation to any situation, we support a client in relation to any situation, which is their agenda. So what we're doing is we're going inside, we're inviting the body to respond with everything it already knows. Sometimes we don't know it, but the body knows it. And we're inviting the body to respond. And the body does that by, sometimes it might be an image, often starts with a feeling or a sensation. And then Jenan has this lovely expression, that's just the door. So our initial felt sense is just the door. But when we know how to access it, we can open that doorway, and then lots more come. So tomorrow at the webinar, I'm showing a video actually of a client. Unfortunately, I'm not able to record and send it to people, so you have to watch it live, because this is a client's actual process. And in 8 minutes, they go through 11 steps. And each step reveals something new. So it might be an image. There's lots of images in it. There's memories. So the body, there's gestures. There's a gesture like this at the start. So the body is a way just of throwing up a movement. I notice that's what I'm doing. So the body is helping me to explain. So it's all there to be interacted with. And that's what focusing is. So there's a particular way. We call it a focusing presence. It's a particular way to be with all of that so that we can enable it to, just come forward. And that's the most beautiful thing about focusing for me. It's a natural, emerging, unfolding process. So it's all there. And by accessing it, we can just allow it to unfold and tell us, everything we need to know about this particular life situation. So if it's a challenge or a decision or a relationship, the body will just capture all of that and offer us something that helps us understand that more fully. And I think that's one thing, Jen. I'm noticing I'm talking a lot. Is that okay?
That's okay. That's what you're here for. It's all good. We're here to listen and learn about it. So it's all good. It's fascinating. It's reminding me, when you're chatting, it's reminding me a little bit of hypnosis, because I've had RTT in the past. And like you say, there's things that we are aware of, like consciously, but there are things that are buried. And I've done that to kind of get things out. And it's fascinating what you don't realize. Like you said, you don't contextualize certain things, or you just don't realize what's gone on in your body. So no, I think it's fascinating that you apply to coaching, and I think a lot of us are only working on a very superficial kind of a level, and we're not going that deep. So no, I think it's fascinating. And I know Nicolene is on the call as well, and she's a human design expert, so she's all about energy. So it's, yeah, it's and kind of unlocking the wisdom of your own kind of design. So it's reminding me of all of that, kind of tapping into
Mm.
that wisdom. Because I would always think that kind of intuition, it will apply to a lot of highly sensitive people, but not necessarily everyone. But the fact that you said that it can be learned is really interesting, because
Mm.
there's a lot of things that can't be learned.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, when you talk about the Nicolette, that lady, and energy, so the connection there really, as I see it, is that, focusing, it's this series of steps, and each step telling us more and more about the complexity and the intricacy of whatever that situation or that relationship or that challenge or that whatever decision is. And so what happens is little steps come. So in the video tomorrow, there's 10 little steps. So each step telling us a little more and a little more. And then a big step comes. And that big step is called a felt shift. And what a felt shift is so immediately before every single felt shift comes a compassion or a kindness, where the client will say something like, "Oh, that was a really hard time for me. I can really feel a tenderness in myself for that," or "I can really feel a compassion for just having got through that time." So first comes this compassion or kindness, and then right after it comes a huge shift of energy. So and that shift is always a permanent shift of energy. And there's a body of work then to be done around how we make sure we process that energy fully and allow it to flow freely. And what's actually happened in a felt shift, so when that big release of energy comes, what's happened is the body has processed something that was previously interrupted, that was previously not felt, suppressed, whatever. So that doesn't happen every session.
Yeah.
But it's probably, linking back to your earlier question, it's one of the things for me that's so transformational, that in our bodies, that's all there to be interacted with. And if
Yeah.
we know how to be with it and stay with it, the transformations are just incredible.
Amazing. So if anyone's joining late, Barbara is doing a webinar tomorrow. She's mentioned it once or twice. So we're just doing a quick live today to chat about it. But tomorrow she will be going through things visually, because I know we're all different. Some of us like a live, or we like to listen to things. Other people prefer to see things. So if you want to know more, tomorrow is going to be a longer session, and I can get the link from Barbara and I can share it in the chat after, and I can share it with people who've signed up on the event page. So if you're listening thinking, what is this webinar? Don't worry, we'll share the link with you, because sometimes I know it's good to see a slide or see something visually to kind of go, oh, okay, I totally get what what we're explaining here today. So I just want to show quickly this. Yeah, so Nicolene said it's reminded her of connecting through energy, through design, definitely. So I'm just gonna put that off.
Might be a good time, Jen, just when you lead in with that, to say, so I've been saying what focusing is, but to explain what focusing oriented coaching is then. So yeah. You mentioned earlier, the word we often use is crossing, the crossing of the two. So in focusing oriented coaching, the coach is always oriented to the felt experience of the client. So we're really there to help the client to feel into what's happening in their bodies and to orient them to that. And the more experienced we get, the more comfortable we are having entire 1.5 hour sessions where we're doing that. But as we learn, we often learn to just do that for 10 or 15 minutes and see where the process takes us. So it can be for a part of a session or a full session. So focusing oriented coaching is where we're not teaching the client how to focus, but we're creating the conditions that allow them to access that within their own body. And really critically, the coach is role modeling, and they're in their own body themselves, so that the client can drop down. And I guess the two things that a focusing oriented coach, or I feel, or feedback from participants, is we're listening at a way, way deeper level. So the level of listening is really on a body level. And the second thing is we're really connecting in with our own human presence. So it's a very, Jen used the term, the primacy of human presence. we're really been fully present as a human being,
Yeah.
to what's going on for us as well as what's happening in the client, so that they can be connected and stay connected with their felt sense.
Oh, it sounds very powerful, because I think we live in a world that people say we're all connected, but we're all slightly disconnected because of all the tech and the distractions. And so to actually sit and to kind of go deep, like I said, it does remind me of hypnosis, and it's not something you would normally do with a coach. You'd never really go that deep. And I think to be able to listen to your body and tap into that wisdom and actually go, like, be willing to go there, I can see how it's really powerful. And yeah, I'm excited to learn more from you tomorrow, just to see the visuals, just to see like how you connect the dots. I'm aware of the time, so just before I kind of bring up the final kind of credits and everything, like, obviously you're super excited about focusing, and like what would you say is the main reason for you, or what was the kind of the main breakthroughs for your clients, or the things that made you go, God, this is a game changer?
Yeah, I think for me, in my mental well-being study, so I mean, I said it lasted 5 years. I did 6-month follow-ups and I did 2-year follow-ups. The work itself happened in the earlier year, 2 years of that. But I think it was the response from the clients. I mean, when I was developing this and writing about it and developing programs, it was tough going at times, Jen, if I'm honest. But what kept me going was the difference it made to people's lives, and just how powerful it was in terms of natural change. And this is all there to be interacted with. And the gift of just being able to help somebody to really create forward-moving, natural change, where you're helping them to connect into the rightness. Like, in some ways, as the coach, you're doing very little, but the skills around it are significant. But the client really feels like they're taking those steps. So it's so empowering. I meet people, a couple of years later, and it's the first thing they say to me, they're so grateful. I have a mountain of thank you cards. I never got a thank you card before in coaching. Just the experience. I think it's that, but also I've integrated it into my own life. I practice regularly. I check in, and if I have a reaction, and say, what was that about? I think it's changed me fundamentally as a person, just in terms of how compassionate I am to all the parts of myself. And that capacity to trust my own sense of rightness.
Oh, I love that, because I know definitely as a business owner, we're not always compassionate to ourselves. And I think we can, especially if you're an empath, or, you're a perfectionist or whatever, we can be hard on ourselves and, dismiss things we've done. And my husband always laughs that I could be kind of stressy about something, and then he'll come in and goes, how did it go? And I've already moved on to the next thing. It's like, and he's like, well, that was such a big deal, because there's always another thing. And you're like, oh, you don't even, or if something positive happens, not kind of stopping and acknowledging and thinking, well, actually, I still need to do X, Y, Z. So I like the sound of that kind of compassion and unearthing that. So yeah, that sounds amazing. So does anybody listening have any questions or comments? I know we're a bit quiet here today. I'm going to just put this banner up for a second anyway, just to say Barbara is doing a webinar tomorrow at lunchtime. So it's going to be 12:30 and it's on Zoom, and we'll share the link with you tomorrow, so you can join us then. And there's no harm in reinforcing what you've heard today, and I'm sure it's going to be different as well anyway. You're not going to have me. I'll be there. I'll be in the chat, but I won't be presenting. So, Barbara, do you want to say what people can expect if they come along?
I was just going to say, actually, the most important thing that's sometimes when I talk about this, people find it hard to grasp conceptually. They have a sense that maybe something like this, but when people see it in practice, when people either see it or experience it for themselves, then they're like, oh, okay. So tomorrow I'm going to show that client video, and it's like 8 minutes, as I said, but we can really see the steps, and then the felt shift at the end. you know, and I'll share what the client's agenda was so you can see how they've moved through it. And I think that if you really want to experience focusing, then that's probably, short of booking a focusing oriented session, that's really a great way just to see and to make concrete what I'm talking about. So
Yeah.
I'd love for as many people to join. It's free, and yeah, there'll be lots more as well.
Yeah, because I definitely, like, you stirred my interest, but I know I need to physically see something for it to totally click in my brain. So if other people are listening and kind of the same, come along. I'll be a newbie learning as well. We're all newbies together. Barbara's amazing. I just want to say there's a quick comment from Deirdre as well. So Deirdre says, my clients really appreciate the deep presence that focusing orientated coaching, FOC, brings, allowing them to notice and pay attention to all the emergent sensations and wisdom their body holds. And I think, yes, sometimes, Deirdre, we don't listen to our bodies sometimes, you know. Our bodies are always giving us warning signs. And it reminds me of years ago before my back went, like, I had sciatica off my leg for probably 6 months and I was ignoring it, kind of like, oh, what's that? Oh, that's nothing, you know. So I think they're always trying to tell us if something is like, even outside your comfort zone, you get kind of a pain in your chest or whatever. And I love the idea of like sitting in that and digging deep and figuring out, well, actually, why is my body doing this? Is it fear or is it excitement that you're going to reach a new level? Oh, Nicola,
Yeah,
lovely as well.
and sorry, I actually love that book.
Oh, I don't know it. It sounds good.
Have it here behind me. Yeah, thank you. It's a wonderful book.
I'll have to check it out because
Yeah.
my body does know the score, but I don't listen to the score sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's all fascinating.
Jane, could I say something really quickly, just based on what you're saying? That's it. That's so it. You're in the right direction. You have to keep going. That's what I tell some. And sometimes it's not about digging deep. Sometimes it's about forming a relationship with these parts of ourselves that are there. And I also wanted to say thank you to Deirdre. Deirdre was actually, putting that comment was on my very first program that I taught. So really appreciate you being here, Deirdre, and thanks for that. And she's a wonderful coach.
Oh, it's great to hear from coaches who are using it as well. And I'm honoured to have chatted with you, the pioneer of this process. And I'm in awe of the amazing study you did, the research for years. And I love anything to do with mental health. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of hype and BS, dare I say it, in the coaching space. But so it's really refreshing to chat to somebody who's actually put in the work and the research, and you know, you've created something amazing, and I'm keen to learn more about it. And I think a lot of us need to become more in tune with our bodies and unlock the wisdom. So yeah, thank you so much for coming along today, everybody. We've got another user here, but I can't see their name. So whoever this is, thank you. Come along tomorrow, you'll learn more about it. And thank you so much for coming along today, Barbara. It's lovely to have you on, and I'm really looking forward to your webinar. Do you have any passing, like, final words of wisdom, or do you want to plug the webinar or anything else?
No, I think we've said everything, Jen. Thanks to you. Thanks to everybody for coming on today. It's if people can make the webinar tomorrow, I'd love them to do that. If not, feel free to reach out and stay connected with me on LinkedIn or DM me. This is something that I just so believe in and really love, and just am anxious to spread the word on it.
Yeah.
So happy to be here doing that. Thanks, Jen.
Amazing. So I'm going to love you, leave you, all of you, and wish you a happy Monday afternoon. And hopefully I'll see a few of you on Zoom in the chat or on the video tomorrow. And thank you so much for coming along and spreading your wisdom, Barbara. I'm really excited for tomorrow. Take care. Thanks, everyone.